Why am I doing all this? So that we'll be more patient, we'll be more humane, so that we'll listen to each other more, so that we will push down our violence, so that we will think of individuals as individuals. The horror of stereotypes is that we encase a stranger in our own perception. And if there's anything that I teach to my students, it's the power of stepping outside of yourself. That the power of literature and of cinema, if you study it at an advanced level, is that you forget yourself, that you erase yourself. Because it's only by erasing a monological point of view that you can then step outside of yourself and become someone else. And that's why it's so important to teach literature. The fact that they're cutting down on the teaching of humanities just guarantees a weaker citizenry, a more docile and selfish community. And that's the worst of what's happening now.
Your artwork attacks and disrupts cultural stereotypes.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that as an art teacher, you also want to help your students avoid thinking in terms of stereotypes.
Yes.
I think of stereotypes as masks that some people create for other people. And the people who create stereotypes or masks for others might feel it disruptive if their masks of the others are removed. Removing the stereotype or the mask may rob some people of an illusion they want, an illusion they live with, an illusion that helps them keep their own identity. But removing the mask can also be a moment of ecstasy. So, can masks be creative? Can personas be creative?
There's a line in Tex-Mex where I'm complaining about Mexican stereotypes, and stereotypes happen to be my scholarly go-to. It's what I'm most known for, if I'm known for anything in the humanities, is my work, my cultural studies work on stereotypes. And I write that the Mexican stereotype is the mask becomes skin. You can't take it off. And we see how successful it is. Our current president has a mastery for scapegoating and fueling the fire of hate that is already kind of intrinsic to Anglo-American culture, right? Stereotypes are the bloodstains of cultures in conflict. They are indelible. The United States happens to have invaded Mexico at least 3 times in the last 2 centuries. And these invasions, of course, led to one of the things I write about in Tex-Mex is right at the moment that Pancho Villa, talk about a Coyote, talk about a clever figure, he invades Columbus, New Mexico, kills a bunch of Americans, goes back to Mexico. The United States responds by sending 25,000 troops to northern Mexico to find him. Of course, they fail. Mexicanos, we love that. Look, los pinche gringos, they come to Mexico, they invade, they leave with nothing. But they didn't leave with nothing. They came with reporters. They came with a new technology, which was the picture postcard. So at the very minute that American soldiers from Kansas, Poughkeepsie, Oregon are stationed in northern Mexico, you've got this new technology, picture postcards, being invented. You've got these guys running around with these machines the size of a washing machine strapped to the front of their bodies, and they're processing and making these postcards. So what happens? What did the soldiers send back? The soldiers send back these pictures of dead Mexicans, dirty bandits, dirty, rotten thieves. And it's crystallized in the American imagination that Mexicans are non-trustworthy, they like to use knives, they're dirty, they love to drink, and all of these indelible bloodstains of an invasion propagate to the point that it's 2026, and for people like Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance, these are not stereotypes. These are not fictions. These are realities, and we need to protect the American public from the scourge of Mexican banditry. Stereotypes are serious business.
Mm. In your artwork and in your thinking, the word ecstasy is a key word for you, okay? And the experience of the ecstasy, and I've given a bit of my take on ecstasy. So what do you mean by this concept of ecstasy relating to your artwork?
Thank you. That's a great question. I don't talk about ecstasy. I talk about Mextasy. And first and foremost, Mextasy is the pleasure of being a Mexican in America, of being a Chicano in America. Love my country. I am the son of a U.S. Army veteran who fought against the Nazis and somehow survived, or I wouldn't exist. I'm a, flag waving, football loving American. But I also happen to be Mexican. And I see what being a Mexican in the 20th and 21st century means. It means apologizing. It means being embarrassed about your accent. It means being stifled and scared. And for whatever reason, and I think it's because I'm from Laredo, because I'm from the border, I wasn't scared. No one was going to stifle me. I was relatively intelligent. I was successful as a student. I was a damn English professor. Who's going to think an English professor is revolutionary? So I've got all these disguises that I can wear and that I can call upon. So Mextasy means three things. Mextasy is the ecstasy of being Mexican in America. Ecstasy, though, also means it was the drug of my generation in my 20s. In Austin, Texas, you could go to a club and for $5 at a nightclub, you could buy a tab of ecstasy, MDMA, and you were transported. And people forget that MDMA was developed by marriage psychiatrists to help people who've been married 40 years and stop talking to each other. It is a drug that loosens your emotions. It releases all the paralysis that's in you, and it makes you freely expressive and euphoric and happy. The hangover from doing ecstasy is the next morning your jaws hurt because you've been smiling so much. You're so euphoric. But the last thing, and this surprises people, I'm a recovering Catholic. I was going to be a priest. I was an altar boy. I would do the readings in Mass in second grade. And ecstasy is part of the liturgy of the Catholic Church. It is that moment that describes the union of body and spirit as one. So ecstasy it's nirvana. It is a moment of spiritual transcendence. So Mextasy is all of that. Mextasy is the euphoria of drugs. It is the joy of being Mexican. And it is this spiritual state of being where you acknowledge and stop apologizing for being Mexican in America. And so that's what I'm trying to do through my art.
I like the way you connect ecstasy, the idea, to all these things, and connect ecstasy to spirituality, and connect ecstasy to artistry. I really like that.
Thank you.
And I really enjoyed listening to that. As a Canadian, I'm now going to talk about connextasy. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, I've been around Canada. I've lectured in Montreal, at Guelph, at Western University. I mentored a PhD student there. I love Canada.
I did all my graduate work at the University of Western Ontario.
Oh, wow.
Which included theses on Faulkner and William Blake.
Oh, There's a combo. Wow. And talk about Blake. He's a visual artist. Jesus.
Some writers and artists seem to worry that becoming too conscious of their creative process will destroy the process. There may be the same issue with curiosity. Does becoming too conscious of curiosity destroy the essence of curiosity? But you've chosen to be both an artist and an academic analyst at the same time. You're mextasizing the two things, okay? And you're getting right into the risk with your analytical side, the risk that for some artists that the analytical side, the conscious side, will destroy the art and the process. Um, so, does how do you deal with this? Does too much consciousness of art and curiosity destroy them? Um, is that an aspect of consciousness, an issue for you as an artist or a teacher, that consciousness can destroy the creative process in teaching and making students more aware of 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 creativity? Is there a risk of the consciousness destroying that? So I mean, you've melded these. So how do you see it?
Um, I have a new motto, and I have to credit my daughter, Sophia, for it because I'm someone who talks a lot. I won't shut up. And it's two words: say less. And of course, that's antithetical to being an English professor, but sometimes you need to say less, you need to shut up, and you need to listen. And when do you need to say less? When do you need to shut up? Well, when you become pedantic, when you start prescribing instead of performing. And I'm largely performative. My background was in acting. I acted in shows till I was 22. I was always acting. And I always tell people that, basically I've got 300 students captive audience for my stand-up act. And there's a moment where I don't know how I do it. I just feel it, that I'm coming off as a boor, as a bore, as a pedant. Say less, shut up, get out of your own way, and respect the imagination, the intellect of your audience. And so I think that's what I try to do. I think I largely escape being a boor or a bore. And I do that because when I walk into the room, I don't expect anything. I don't expect them to want to listen to me. I think a lot of professors are mortified when they see how disinterested students are because they expect to just walk into a room. And I'm always telling my mentees who are going to be future teachers, it's on you. It's on you to make the room, I call it an imagination laboratory, right? This is my lab. This is where ideas flourish. It's not the role of the student to create an environment where ideas flourish. That's on you. And so I think because I'm always doubting myself, because I walk into the room terrified, because I don't expect them to, every semester, it happens every semester, I have the dream of the hundreds of students in the room not listening to me. And it's the same nightmare. I'm shouting louder and louder and louder, and they just start to get up and leave the room. And you have terror dreams like that. It keeps you honest.
But it's obvious you're a very dynamic teacher. That teaching for you is a performance. Teaching for you is performance
Yes. Yes.
art, and that's the reason I'd rather attend your classes than my classes.
Well, thank you.
I said that your life and your work seek the power and creativity in our hidden, authentic selves. I said that the moment that the mask of the false self comes off is a startling and powerful assertion of self. I see a connection with ecstasy. I see a connection with you talked about the ecstasy of spirituality, the ecstasy of artwork. And here I'm now relating it to this moment um, uh, in my interpretation of your art, where the stereotypes, the masks, you engage the audience in the act of taking them off. So, if that makes sense, um, how would you describe these moments of ecstasy in yourself and the moments of ecstasy in your students? When do these happen? What do you see happening?
Well, again, I mean, we're dealing here with issues of ontology. We're on firm philosophical soil, and I have to disagree actually with a little something that you said, because I don't believe that we have a mask, we take it off, and you have the real self. I don't believe. I mean, that's one of the beauties of post-structuralism. I don't believe in this true self. The idea of truth and falsity are a binary that just get us into trouble. I would say that the mask, uh, if I wear one, when it comes down, there's largely another mask there that we are, as a pedagogue, as a teacher, or someone, even when I'm trying to teach my own art or where I'm performing as a performance artist, um, there's no telling what I'm up to in a given moment. It changes, it shifts. I'm actually a big one of the things I talk about with with my students is to release themselves from the burden of this idea of the essential self, because all that's going to do is stifle your discovery. You could be a horrible person tomorrow. You might imagine you're a great person today, and tomorrow something will happen, and the worst part of you may need to emerge. We are very much, as individuals, like the archetypal Coyote figure. We can be delightfully playful, and we can be viciously violent. I think each of us have these capacities within us. And so, if anything, um, the old credo of do no harm is much more important. And I think that's, as I get older, if I've mellowed it all, part of it is in this idea of saying less and to listen more, is that oftentimes, even with my successful performance, I'm turning off a third of the audience. They read my Rate My Professor reviews. You'll see he's bombastic. And I do read my reviews. I do. He's arrogant, and I never get those accusations actually hurt, because inside, if I look at myself through my mirror, I see a very scared little boy, terrified of failure. And most of when I tell my students that I'm terrified before I lecture, they think I'm kidding, because you can't see it. Never let them see you sweat, right? The commercial used to say. But I'm sweating. I'm terrified, and I'm out of time. That's the other thing. As I get older, I've been using this phrase. I got to lecture in Rome and Italy on AI and robotics and the humanities, and I was talking about being out of time. And what I meant by that was that I was a nostalgia nut. I love the past. But I'm also out of time because I'm getting older. I can hear the tick tock. I can hear the footsteps, the boulders falling through the hourglass. And so, yeah, I don't even know where we started, but that's where we ended up.
Well, one thing you said is that only you turn off one third of your students, and I'm thinking, wow, you only turn off one third of your students. How do you do that? You know, wow, that's an accomplishment.
They get angry. Oh my God, they get pissed.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what makes a class dynamic.
Exactly.
I don't think we really disagree about mask and persona. And at one point, I asked you if the mask or the persona can be creative, and I asked you if as an artist, as a teacher, um, um, uh, whether the person you're presenting, the identity you're presenting, is really you. So, so let's go back to that question. Do you, can a mask? We call it persona. Mask has certain connotations in our society. It has connotations of falsity, and you are using it not in that sense, a mask as falsity, but you talk about leading to discovery, leading to revelation.
Right. Right.
So do you see a persona, a mask, as a creative act? That is a creative side of ourselves that we present, or being creative in how we present ourselves.
Yeah, I was actually. I mean, my if I had to describe my position as a literature professor, I'm heavily influenced by, as I've mentioned, post-structuralism, but I'm also a psychoanalytic critic. So I understand the mask to function, especially in literature and film and cinema, as mask and as mask, M-A-S-K versus M-A-S-Q-U-E. And of course, the mask is the story within the story that an author, say in Hamlet, Shakespeare uses the play that Hamlet stages in the middle of Hamlet as it's this meta moment where the play encloses itself and reveals another story that is related to the other story. So of course it's a performance, right? My classroom when I'm teaching, or my lecture hall when I'm teaching my art, as I'll be doing at Amherst, it becomes a safe space for play, adult, serious, intellectual, emotional play. And to that extent, we are engaging in personas, we are trafficking in falsities and exaggeration. You've already said, that I'm a fan of satire, and I confess to my love of parody. So of course I'm having a laugh, as Ricky Gervais puts it. But I'm having a laugh in order to get us to be, and here I will never say this. I'm going to say it here because you're interviewing me. But so that
I'm listening. Now you got my whole attention. That
so that we will
something
be so that
incredible is
we
about to happen.
no. See, don't ruin it. You don't know. I might flop. Um, why am I doing all this? So that we'll be more patient, we'll be more humane, so that we'll listen to each other more, so that we will push down our violence, so that we will think of individuals as individuals. The horror of stereotypes is that we encase a stranger in our own perception. And if there's anything that I teach to my students, it's the power of stepping outside of yourself. That the power of literature and of cinema, if you study it at an advanced level, is that you forget yourself, that you erase yourself. Because it's only by erasing a monological point of view that you can then step outside of yourself and become someone else. And that's why it's so important to teach literature. The fact that they're cutting down on the teaching of humanities just guarantees a weaker citizenry, a more docile and selfish community. And that's the worst of what's happening now.